Hello, this is Module 3, Environmental Justice. Basically, what I learned during this module was about what environmental justice is. Basically, environmental justice is the right of all people to have a safe and healthy environment that they can live in and thrive in. And I learned in this module that that doesn't always happen, oftentimes due to environmental racism. Basically, the three categories of justice that the people seeking environmental justice are looking for is distributional justice, procedural justice, and entitlements. And distributional justice is basically the fair distribution of harms and benefits to the overall population. So, the distribution of toxic waste sites. It shouldn't all be concentrated in one particular community. It should be distributed evenly throughout the public. And they're actually arguing that it should be equitable distribution. So communities that are more vulnerable to certain toxins or to certain hazards should not have to deal with those. So there might be a slight inequality of distribution, but it would be an equitable distribution system. Procedural justice is it's about the process through which environmental decisions are made, basically trying to get environmental decisions to be made through a fair and an open process, one with the community members actually actively involved and driving the process for environmental justice. And then lastly, entitlements. And entitlements is basically just like the right of people to be able to have environmental justice, to be able to have a clean, safe environment, and it recognizes a person's basic right to work or to have like safe air, etc., and then tries to make it a reality. In terms of how this connects to previous modules, the place matters and the toxins module, this is environmental justice is central to where a person lives. Oftentimes and what community they're a part of. And then it's also, as I mentioned, about the placement of toxins and like where hazardous facilities are located in relation to these communities. Interestingly enough, it's not, even accounting for income levels, there's still a racial disparity. So that's sort of the environmental racism aspect of this all, which is that that even to equally low income communities, if one is predominantly minority community, there's more likely to be more toxins and hazardous sites concentrated there. My main takeaway: racism comes in all different forms, and so you might think of like small acts of racism as being like detrimental to your health and the main factor in racism, or even institutional racism and like housing discrimination and whatnot. But environmental racism is a huge factor and a major negative effect on your health. As I mentioned before, what is environmental justice? It's the right of all people to have a safe and healthy environment to grow in. And environmental racism is the fact that minority communities are overrepresented at toxic sites and have less of a chance of having this safe and healthy environment to live in. In terms of how youth are affected by environmental injustices, obviously, as we learned in the toxins module, youth are like really affected by toxic environments. So youth are particularly affected by like the air that they're breathing in, or if their neighborhood is unsafe and they can't like go and play outside or something, then that all affects like how they're growing up. Also, education is like a major factor in environmental justice, in my opinion, and like a fact, because education, like, I feel like a lot of people don't know about environmental injustices, and so a big part of achieving environmental justice would be to educate the youth, and that's actually the environmental justice principle number 16, is to continue with the education of of the next generation so that the movement can continue. Strategies that community members can use to address environmental injustices are like promoting community engagement and action, because it's really the community that has to be the driving force behind taking action. Spreading the word. A lot of people don't know that their neighborhoods are unsafe, they're toxic, and like petitioning the government, taking legal action. There's a bunch of different ways that communities can address injustices, although it can be difficult with funding, and because a lot of these communities are low income and minority, it can be difficult. But there are ways, there are examples. Oh, I think I was supposed to give an example of environmental justice and racism issues. Warren County was a really big example, sort of like the beginning of the movement. And basically a bunch of a toxic plant, basically it was a study conducted that showed that a ton of toxic plants were being put in minority communities disproportionately, and that, that's an example of environmental racism and injustice. And so my conclusion is take action. This is like actually killing people. The fact that their neighborhoods are unsafe because they can't breathe the air, and they can't, like the paint on their walls is going to kill them. And the fact is that it's like a systematic thing that companies are putting their toxins close to minority communities, and it's just not okay. So my main conclusion is this is a real problematic issue, and we need to take action in whatever way we as individuals can. Okay. Thank you. Wait, sorry. Thank you.